Hey guys, Katie here, and today I'm doing the big book phobia tag. I was tagged by Heather at Illogical Betty and Jen at TodayInJensLibrary. Both of them are lovely and wonderful, and I hope that if you aren't subscribed to them, that you will subscribe to them right away. I'm telling you. And please bear with me as I am not at home right now. I'm dog sitting again, and so I only have the books that I brought with me, which is actually a huge pile. Oh my gosh. The big book phobia tag, to do it, you need to pick 5 big books that you haven't read and talk about why you haven't read them, and 5 little books that you have read and talk about why you have read them. I'm going to start with the one book I have with me, and that is Bleak House by Charles Dickens. This is 1,017 pages. It's very large, and as you can see, I do have a bookmark in here because I started it, but it was massively daunting. I love the BBC miniseries for this particular book. The beginning is a little bit dry, as I have discovered. SteveReadsBooks and Cathy at ILoveMyVirginia, they're doing a read of this book in August, and they asked me if I'd like to join them, so I will be reading this book with them then, hopefully. So that was my first big book. My first little book is Girl with a Pearl Earring by Tracy Chevalier. It's 233 pages. I read it a very long time ago, but I just thought that the language was so beautiful, the love story was so intense, and I remember just falling in love with that book. In fact, I meant to read more books by that author, but I haven't managed to do that yet. I did see the movie, and if you've seen that movie, you know that Colin Firth and Scarlett Johansson barely say 2 words to each other, but they're crazy about each other, and it's really, really, did I mention intense? It's intense. My next big book is Vanity Fair by William Makepeace Thackeray. Yeah, Vanity Fair. I like the idea of Vanity Fair because it sounds cool to have a main character that isn't very likable. That's really interesting to me. Once again, this is a big book that I started. This is 867 pages. It's one of those books where I feel like I'm gonna need to read it in installments. I remember my first upper division lit professor told me about Middlemarch, which I wanted to read at the time, this was also years ago, to read 1 chapter at a time, because you can do it, it's a big book. You can read it 1 chapter a day and be fine. So that may be the only way I get through Vanity Fair, because as much as I am interested in the story and I think it'll be really good, it's, oh my gosh, it's just big, it's just scary. My next little book is Stardust by Neil Gaiman. It's 248 pages. I loved Stardust the movie. It was a little bit cheesy, you know, whatever, but I picked up the book and it's very different. I loved the characters and the story, and I remember being really engrossed in it. And the idea that like a star could fall from the sky and be a person, that's really cool. My next big book is 1Q84 by Haruki Murakami. It's 925 pages. I heard about this from ClimbTheStacks, and in fact I've been eyeing a bunch of Murakami's books since I got into BookTube. I think I'm gonna start with something shorter. If you haven't seen 1Q84 in the bookstore, it's really pretty. If I can find a picture, I will put it in the video, but it's huge. It's like, I think it's bigger than Bleak House. Well, it looks like it is. It has a cool case. I heard it was similar to 1984. I don't really know. Honestly, I have no idea what it's about. I just know that as soon as I heard about it, I wanted to read it. So it's on my list, but who knows when I'll get to it. The next little book on my list is called Fiona's Stolen Child by Gemma Whelan. Fiona's Stolen Child is 300 pages. I remember at the time I was kind of like not into it, but as soon as I took a second, you know, step back, and I really enjoyed it. It's about a woman who is living in New York. She's Irish, and she has to come home for a family funeral, I think, and she's just released a book about her childhood in Ireland, and it's scandalous and wonderful. It's all about Fiona's feeling of responsibility for her little sister's death. It's a good book, and if I recall correctly, the writer of that book came to our class and talked to us. That was a really cool experience. My number 4 big book is, am I counting? I don't even know if I'm counting, but it's Gone with the Wind. And the good news is I signed up to read this with BookTube Reading Buddies. It's a buddy read that Leanne from Literary Diversions is heading up, and I'm really excited about it. But The book is huge. I can't even find the edition that I want. I've been looking everywhere for a really good edition of Gone with the Wind. So if you have any suggestions, really quick let me know in the comments, because I'm pretty sure it starts tomorrow and I'm not prepared. Gone with the Wind is 1,037 pages, and of course it's quite epic. I never actually saw Gone with the Wind the movie, so this is gonna be a big surprise for me. It's just one of those books that I've always thought, you know, if I could sit down and read that, that'd be fun. But actually doing that takes some convincing. It's the biggest book on my list, so. My next short book that I don't have the page count for, but I believe it's something like 150, is The Bloody Chamber and Other Stories by Angela Carter. It's a really interesting kind of unique spin on fairy tales. You know, 13 fairy tales told from a different perspective. It's very beautiful. It's a really short book, and I think I've heard about this on BookTube somewhere, so people have been reading it. It's really dark, and I think it's supposed to be kind of like a feminist spin. I don't really remember though. It's been a long time since I read it. I just remember it keeps coming back to me, and it's one of those books that I really would like to own. Of course, I sold it. The Bloody Chamber is a great book. It's a really fun read, so, well, go on. Read it. The last book on my big book list is by J.R.R. Tolkien. It's The Unfinished Tales. It is 611 pages. When I was younger, I read the Silmarillion. It was pretty dry, right? I mean, it's like a Bible of Middle-earth. But I have always wanted to read more about Middle-earth, you know, whatever is out there I'm into. I used to own The Unfinished Tales, but I think it's one of the books I sold when I left Portland, so maybe someday, I don't know. But if I recall, it took me forever to read, in particular The Fellowship of the Ring and the Silmarillion. It's not a relaxed read. There's a lot of information there, and it's just what it is. And the final book on my little book list, which is what I called it on my paper, Little Books. The Passion by Jeanette Winterson. This is 176 pages, and it's another book I read in college, but The Passion is this really interesting story that takes place in Venice. It's actually set during the Napoleonic Wars. What's interesting to me about this book, and what I love so much, is the main female character, Villanelle. She's the daughter of a Venetian boatman, and she has webbed feet for some reason. It kind of takes place around the time of the carnival, and there's a lot of people wearing masks and really interesting stories about boatmen in Venice and all of these crazy things. It's just this beautiful sort of fantasy slash dream world story that's I'm having a hard time finding the words, but I really loved it, and I think I wrote a paper on it that I felt really good about, because, you know, when you like something, it's easier to talk about it. So that was my last book. I am going to tag some people, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. I'll put them in the description below, and I'll tweet them. Once again, if you don't watch Jen or Heather, check them out. If you haven't done this tag, you should do it. It was pretty fun. It was kind of hard, and I wish I had my books with me, but that's life, I guess. If I'm lucky, tonight I should have music for my videos that my incredibly talented friend Bruce made for me. So if you're hearing the music in here and you like it, let me know in the comments so that I can show Bruce, because I think he would really be jazzed by that. Anyway, that's about it for today, so I will see you later. Bye!